Welcome to Let's Read Mobile, presented by the Boys and Girls Clubs of South Alabama. I'm Miss Rosa, and I'd like to read you a new book today, Always Looking Up, The Nancy Grace Roman Astronomer by Laura Gehl. Young Nancy Grace loved to look up at the endless night sky. She gazed at tiny blue-white stars glittering in the inky blackness. Her father's job changed again and again. For Nancy Grace, this meant moving from Tennessee to Texas, to Oklahoma, to New Jersey, then to Michigan. Each new place seemed different and strange. But the same night sky extended across the country and beyond. Nancy Grace looked up to see the familiar moon glowing above each new home. And wearing her first pair of glasses, Nancy Grace looked up through their lenses to see colors twirling and dancing on a dark stage, the Northern Lights. With curiosity as boundless as the universe, Nancy Grace vowed to learn more about space. She gathered friends into an astronomy club to study the constellations. Together they mapped sparkling patterns on an infinite black canvas. Standing in the quiet night, Nancy Grace watched brilliant meteors shoot across an ocean of deep, dark blue, and she noticed Venus and Jupiter outshining the stars. Nancy Grace read every astronomy book in the public library, but then her eyes grew weak, and the doctor ordered a break, no reading except for schoolwork. Still, no one could stop Nancy Grace from reading the night sky. And she was unstoppable at school, where she tutored a fellow student in math, asked questions her physics teacher could not answer, and requested a second algebra class instead of Latin. What lady would take mathematics instead of Latin? The guidance counselor asked. A lady planning to be an astronomer, that's who. With determination as fiery as a supernova, Nancy Grace went on to college, where her professors told her science and math were masculine subjects. Cold, hard facts and calculations were best left to men, they believed. Literature and history, those were for women. Yet Nancy Grace knew astronomy was for her. And her eyes were strong again, strong enough to read a tower of books stretching toward space. Nancy Grace blazed through science classes until one teacher admitted, "Maybe you just might make it." Nancy Grace zoomed ahead to graduate school. Some teachers did not approve of women pursuing advanced degrees. They thought women should leave school and get married instead. But Nancy Grace stayed focused on the stars of the Big Dipper, studying their movements through space. She still looked up at the sky every night, but now it was her job. Nancy Grace had pushed past everyone steering her toward ladylike careers such as teaching or nursing. She had achieved her goal of becoming an astronomer. Yet this was only the beginning. With powerful tools and her powerful mind, astronomer Nancy Grace searched for new information, new answers, even new questions about the universe. She studied bright stars in our swirling Milky Way, noting that young stars move differently from older ones. She observed binary stars like AG Draconis, a giant star, and a dwarf star orbiting each other. She worked with radio telescopes, detecting invisible energy from stars and planets. Her research spread across the world to astronomers in the Soviet Union, where Americans were not normally welcome. They read Nancy Grace's published paper about AG Draconis and invited her to visit. Nancy Grace's trip intrigued other scientists. She gave a talk when she returned to the U.S., then a series of 10 astronomy lectures. Nancy Grace's passion shone as she spoke. She had seen and learned so much in her career already. Now she could share that knowledge with others. When brand new NASA needed a chief of astronomy, Nancy Grace seized the opportunity. She traveled the country asking scientists about their hopes for space astronomy. Many had the same desire, a clear view of space from above the atmosphere. Nancy Grace understood that the atmosphere blocks and alters light from space. Looking at stars through the atmosphere, she wrote in an essay, is not too different from looking at street lights through a pane of old stained glass. Nancy Grace dreamed of helping astronomers see farther into space than humans had ever seen before, past the moon, past Venus and Jupiter, past the stars she had mapped as a child. The world needed a new kind of telescope, one that floated above the atmosphere, orbiting Earth while capturing images of infant stars, black holes, and galaxies billions of light years away. Astronomers had wished for this type of telescope before, yet many doubted it could become a reality. A large space telescope would cost millions, maybe billions of dollars. It would be difficult to build. Telescopes on Earth were good enough, but Nancy Grace had faced doubters before. She brought astronomers and engineers together. What did astronomers want? What did engineers believe possible? What if something went wrong up in space? Meetings continued for years. Gradually, they agreed on a design that would become the Hubble Space Telescope. NASA needed money from Congress to pay for the Hubble. Lots of money. One senator questioned whether taxpayers should fund an expensive telescope, but Nancy Grace had experience defending her choices. For the price of a single night at the movie, every American will get 15 years of exciting scientific results, she wrote in response. Finally, more than a decade later, following design changes, delays, and setbacks, a shuttle carried Hubble into space. As big as a bus, as heavy as 2 elephants, Hubble was launched into orbit. The world waited for the first photographs taken without the distortion of the atmosphere. Photographs that would prove Hubble worthy of the money and years of effort. But the first images were blurry, and hopes plummeted like a falling meteorite. Yet, way back when Nancy Grace brought a team together to design Hubble, they had repair missions in mind. Hubble was the first telescope designed to be serviced in space. 3 years after Hubble's launch, astronauts installed a device to correct the faulty mirror. It was like putting glasses on Hubble. Once again, people across the globe waited for pictures. Would the fix work? Nancy Grace waited too. Yes, crystal clear images from Hubble dazzled and delighted, informed and inspired. Nancy Grace, called Mother of Hubble, marveled along with the rest of the world at the photographs sent back from space. Comets hurtling into Jupiter, dust storms on Mars, nebula shaped like a butterfly, a crab, a tarantula. Over the next quarter of a century, much longer than the 15 years Nancy Grace had promised Congress, Hubble changed the way people saw the universe and helped scientists make giant leaps in understanding space. Astronomers could track the shrinking red spot on Jupiter, measure the atmospheres of planets beyond our solar system, and estimate the age of the universe. After retiring, Nancy Grace never stopped learning about astronomy, reading papers, attending lectures, talking with other astronomers, and even in her 90s, Nancy Grace loved to walk outside and look up at the endless night sky. As she said, the real way to learn about the sky is to look at it. Till rising and gliding out, I wandered off by myself in the mystical moist night air, and from time to time looked up in perfect silence at the stars. That was from Walt Whitman from When I Heard the Learned Astronomer, Nancy Grace Roman's favorite poem. Thank you for joining us today and learning about astronomy and Nancy Grace Roman. I hope you will watch us next time, and until then, let's read, Mobile.